The dying star painted the sky in shades of deep red and orange. Elder Tavan stood at the window of the great council chamber and watched his world end slowly. The light that once gave life to his people now brought only death. Scientists said they had 47 days. Maybe less. Tavan was old, even by Valari standards. His translucent skin had grown pale over the centuries, and his large dark eyes had seen many things. But he had never seen hopelessness like this. 2 billion of his people waited for salvation that would not come. The Valari were not builders of great ships. They were scholars, healers, and keepers of knowledge. Their bodies were fragile, made for a world with gentle gravity and soft light. They had never needed warships or massive fleets. They had traded their wisdom for protection, their knowledge for peace. Now the peace meant nothing. Their son was dying, and no one was coming to help. "Elder," said a young voice behind him, "the council is ready." Tavan turned to see Merol, one of the youngest translators in the diplomatic corps. She was barely 200 years old, still full of hope that the old could no longer feel. "Thank you, child," he said softly. "Let us go and speak of impossible things." The council chamber was full. Every seat was taken by representatives from across their world. They looked at Tavan with desperate eyes. He was their leader. He was supposed to have answers. "We have contacted every allied species," Tavan began. "The Fenari cannot help. Their ships are too small. The Kethian Collective has offered sympathy, but no vessels. The Galactic Council has expressed concern, but taken no action." Murmurs of despair filled the room. "There is one option we have not tried," Tavan continued. "A general broadcast. A call to anyone who might hear. Anyone who might answer." "That is dangerous," said Councillor Voss. "We do not know who might respond. There are species in the outer regions that we know nothing about. Predator species. Deathworlders." The word sent a chill through the chamber. Deathworlders. Species that evolved on planets, so hostile that their bodies became weapons. Species with bones like stone and muscles like cable. Species that ate other living things to survive. "I would rather face the unknown than certain death," Tavan said quietly. "We have no other choice." The vote was close, but fear of extinction won over fear of the unknown. The broadcast was sent that night. 3 days later, in a distant corner of the galaxy, Captain Una Park sat in her command chair aboard the UESC Resolve. The ship was on routine patrol near the galactic rim, far from anything interesting. Una was reading reports and fighting boredom when her communications officer spoke. "Captain, we are receiving a strange signal. It is on all frequencies." Una set down her tablet. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was soft and filled with pain. It spoke in the common galactic language, but the words were heavy with desperation. "This is Elder Tavan of the Valari people. Our star is dying. We cannot save ourselves. We have 2 billion souls on our world. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We will give anything. We will do anything. Please. We are running out of time." The message repeated. Una listened to it 3 times. Around her, the bridge crew had gone silent. "Navigation," Una said. "How far are we from Valari space?" 6 days at maximum speed, Captain." Una stood up. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command." Priority 1. Admiral Deho Shin was in the middle of a budget meeting when the call came through. He was a patient man, but budget meetings tested even his limits. When his aide told him it was Captain Park with a Priority 1 message, he excused himself immediately. He listened to the Valari broadcast in silence. When it ended, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. "What are you thinking, Captain?" he asked. "I am thinking that we should help them, sir. The Valari are not our allies. We have no treaty with them. They have never done anything for humanity. Does that matter, sir?" Deho smiled. He had commanded ships for 40 years. He had seen humanity at its worst and at its best. He knew what his people were capable of when they chose to be. "No," he said, "it does not matter at all. How many ships do you think we need? Their population is 2 billion, sir. We need everything." Deho pulled up fleet deployments on his screen. The third fleet was closest. 400 warships. It was not enough, but it was a start. "I am redirecting the third fleet to your position," he said. "You will lead the advance team. I will follow with everything else I can gather. Sir, the Galactic Council will ask questions. Let them ask. We will be too busy saving lives to answer." The news spread across human space within hours. A dying species had called for help. Humanity was answering at the Galactic Council headquarters. Ambassadors watched in confusion as human ships began moving. 400 vessels. Then 500. Then more. Cargo ships loaded with supplies. Medical frigates staffed with volunteers. Even civilian transports were being modified to carry passengers. "What are they doing?" asked the Fenari ambassador. "The Valari have nothing to offer them. There is no profit in this." "Perhaps they want Valari knowledge," suggested the Kethian representative. "Their libraries are valuable." But neither explanation felt right. The humans were not negotiating. They were not making demands. They were simply coming. On the Valari homeworld, Tavan received confirmation of the response. His hands trembled as he read the message. "Help is coming," he announced to the council. "Ships are on their way." Relief flooded the chamber. Then someone asked the question that changed everything. "Who is coming?" Tavan looked at the species identification in the message. His blood went cold. "Humans," he whispered. "The humans are coming." Silence fell. Everyone knew about humans. They were Deathworlders. They came from a planet with crushing gravity and extreme temperatures. They hunted other animals for food. Their bodies could heal from wounds that would kill any Valari. They could run for hours without stopping. They kept predator animals as pets, and they were coming here. "In force, what have we done?" Counselor Voss said, his voice shaking. "We called monsters to our world." Meryl stood in the corner, watching the fear spread through her leaders. She did not know what to think. She had studied humans in her training. She knew the stories. But she also knew that they were the only ones who had answered. Maybe monsters were exactly what her people needed. Outside, the dying sun continued its slow collapse. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 400 human ships burned toward them at impossible speed. The Deathworlders had heard the call. They were coming to help. The sky above the Valari homeworld split open with light. One moment there was nothing but dying stars and empty space. The next moment, 400 human ships appeared in perfect formation. They filled the orbital view like a wall of metal and fire. Meryl watched from the observation deck of the capital city. She had never seen so many ships in one place. No one had. The Valari defense fleet was 12 vessels. The humans had brought an armada. "They could destroy us in minutes," whispered a technician beside her. "Why did we call them here?" Meryl did not answer. She was too busy watching the ships move. They did not scatter or spread randomly. They flowed like water, each vessel knowing exactly where to go. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The first shuttle landed 2 hours later. Meryl was assigned to meet it as part of the diplomatic team. She stood on the landing pad with Elder Tivan and tried to keep her hands from shaking. The shuttle door opened, and the humans stepped out. Meryl had seen images of humans before, but images did not prepare her for reality. They were huge. The first one out was a female with short black hair and steady eyes. She moved with a grace that seemed wrong for someone so large. Behind her came others, each one solid and powerful in ways that made Meryl feel like glass. "I am Captain Unipark of the UESC Resolve," the female said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We are here to help." Elder Tivon stepped forward. His ancient body looked fragile next to the human captain. "I am Elder Tivon. On behalf of my people, I thank you for coming. We did not expect anyone to answer." "We heard your call," Una said simply. That was enough. Behind her, the other humans spread out and began unloading equipment. They moved quickly and efficiently, speaking to each other in short bursts. Meryl tried to follow their movements, but they were too fast. "This is Dr. Ji-Won Kang, our chief medical officer," Una continued, pointing to a smaller female with kind eyes. "And this is Tae-Young Oh, our logistics specialist. They need to assess your population and infrastructure immediately." "Of course," Tivon said. "Meryl will serve as your translator and guide." Meryl felt her heart stop. She would be working directly with the Deathworlders. She bowed her head and tried to hide her fear. Dr. Ji-Won approached her with a warm smile. "Hello, Meryl. I promise we are not as scary as we look." The words surprised Meryl. She had not expected a Deathworlder to notice her fear or to care about it. Over the next several hours, the humans surveyed everything. They walked through hospitals and schools. They counted shelters and measured roads. They asked questions about Valari biology, about their needs, about their fears. And then the problems began. "The standard evacuation protocol will not work," Tae-Young announced during the first planning meeting. "Human transport ships are designed for humans. The noise levels alone could cause permanent hearing damage to Valari passengers. The lighting would blind them. The acceleration would break their bones." "Then we change the ships," Una said. "That would require modifications to every vessel in the fleet, Captain. We have 47 days and 2 billion people to move." "Then we had better start now." Meryl translated the conversation for Elder Tivon. The old Valari looked confused. "They would change their own ships for us?" he asked. "That seems like great sacrifice for strangers." Meryl did not have an answer. The modifications began that same night. Across the human fleet, crews started tearing apart their own quarters. They removed bright lights and installed soft glowing panels. They added sound dampening to every surface. They padded walls and floors with materials soft enough for Valari bodies. Morale was assigned to observe the work on the Resolve. She walked through corridors filled with human workers and tried to stay out of their way. They were everywhere, crawling through spaces too small for their bodies, working with tools that sparked and hummed. She found one engineer alone in a cargo bay. He was installing padding on a metal wall, pressing each piece into place with bleeding hands. His skin was torn from hours of work, but he did not stop. "Why are you doing this?" Meryl asked before she could stop herself. The human looked at her. His name tag said Kyung-Soo Nam. His face was tired, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Doing what?" he asked. "All of this. You are hurting yourself to help us. We have done nothing for you. We cannot pay you. We have nothing to offer." Kyung-Soo looked confused by the question. He stared at her for a long moment, then shrugged. "You need help," he said. "That is why, but your hands are bleeding." Kyung-Soo looked down at his torn skin, as if noticing it for the first time. He wiped the blood on his uniform and returned to work. "It will heal," he said. "Your people will not heal if we do not get these ships ready." Meryl stood there watching him work. She did not understand these creatures. They were supposed to be monsters, predators, Deathworlders who killed and consumed. But this one was bleeding for strangers he had never met. She reported her observations to Elder Tivon that night. "They work without rest," she said. "They damage themselves and do not complain." When I asked why, They seemed confused by the question, as if helping us was the obvious thing to do. Tavan sat in silence for a long time. "Perhaps we have misjudged them," he finally said. "Perhaps Deathworlders are not what we thought." The next morning, Meryl returned to the Resolve. The ship had been transformed overnight. Harsh lights were gone. Loud machinery had been silenced. Soft surfaces covered every hard-edged dot. Captain Yuna met her at the entrance. "What do you think?" the human asked. Meryl looked around in wonder. "It is perfect." "How did you do this so quickly?" "We did not sleep," Yuna said. "None of us did. There was too much work to do." "You have not slept in 2 days?" Yuna smiled. "We will sleep when your people are safe." Meryl felt something shift inside her. Fear was being replaced by something else. Something she could not name. Across the fleet, 400 ships were being transformed. Humans worked through pain and exhaustion. They gave up their quarters, their comfort, their rest. All for strangers they had just met. Word spread through the Valari population. The Deathworlders were not destroying them. The Deathworlders were saving them. Elder Tavan addressed his people that night. "I know you are afraid," he said. "I was afraid too. We called into the darkness and monsters answered. But I have seen these monsters now. They bleed for us. They sacrifice for us. They treat our children with gentleness and our elders with respect. Perhaps they are not monsters at all. Perhaps they are something we do not have a word for yet." In the crowd, Valari whispered to each other. Hope was returning. Strange, impossible hope carried on the shoulders of Deathworlders. Above them, human ships continued their transformation. And somewhere in the darkness, sensors detected new contacts approaching. Ships that were not human. Ships that carried weapons and bad intentions. The rescue had only just begun. And it was about to become much harder. The Kravik warships came out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 200 vessels, each one bristling with weapons. They formed a wall between the human fleet and open space, blocking any escape. Commander Vorath stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled. He had waited years for this moment. The Valari had always been protected by treaties and alliances. But now their star was dying. Their allies had abandoned them, and their only defenders were a handful of Deathworlders on a foolish rescue mission. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Vorath commanded. "Let us see how brave these apes really are." On the Resolve, Captain Yuna watched the Kravik formation with calm eyes. She had read reports about them. They were conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not take. They had been waiting for the Valari to weaken. "We are receiving a transmission," her communications officer announced. "Put it through." Vorath's face appeared on the main screen. He was reptilian, with scales of deep green and eyes like yellow fire. His teeth were sharp, and his voice was filled with contempt. "Human vessels, you are interfering in Kravik territory. The Valari and all their possessions now belong to the Dominion. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Yuna stood up slowly. "The Valari are not possessions. They are people. We are here to help them evacuate." "Evacuate?" Vorath laughed. "There will be no evacuation. The Valari libraries contain knowledge worth more than 1,000 worlds. That knowledge belongs to us now. Leave, human, while you still can." "We are not leaving." Vorath's smile faded. "You have 400 ships. I have 200. But I have more coming. Soon I will have 500. Do you really want to die for creatures you have never met?" Yuna thought about the bleeding engineer. She thought about the Valari children she had seen that morning, playing in the streets despite the dying sun. She thought about Meryl, who had stopped being afraid and started being curious. "Yes," she said simply. "We do." The transmission ended. Vorath stared at the blank screen in confusion. He had expected fear. He had expected negotiation. He had not expected a simple yes. Admiral Deho arrived with the second wave of human ships 6 hours later. His fleet merged with Yuna's, bringing their total to over 500 vessels. Still not enough, but closer. The Kravik are reinforcing, he told his captains during the strategy meeting. We expect their numbers to reach 500 within 2 days. We need to begin evacuation immediately while we still have space superiority. What about the Kravik? Asked Security Chief Hana Lim. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for creative violence. They will not just watch us leave. Then, we make sure they cannot stop us. I want defensive positions around all evacuation routes. Fighter squadrons on constant patrol. Any Kravik ship that comes within weapons range gets one warning. After that, we remove them. The first evacuation shuttles launched that afternoon. They carried 3,000 Valari each, moving slowly to avoid injuring their fragile passengers. Human fighters flew alongside them like protective shadows. The Kravik tested the human defenses with a probing attack. 20 ships moved toward the evacuation corridor, weapons charging. Soo-min Beek was leading patrol when the attack came. He was 28 years old, a fighter pilot since he was old enough to join the academy. He had never killed anyone before. He hoped he would not have to today. Kravik vessels, you are approaching protected space, he transmitted. Turn back now or we will fire. The Kravik did not turn back. Soo-min gave the order. His squadron attacked with precision and fury. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, 18 Kravik ships were disabled or destroyed. 2 human fighters were damaged. None were lost. Varth watched the battle from his flagship. His hands gripped the arms of his command chair until his scales cracked. They fight like demons, his tactical officer whispered. They fight like fools, Varth replied. They waste their strength protecting weaklings. Send for more reinforcements. We will drown them in numbers. On the planet's surface, Hana organized ground defenses. She trained Valari volunteers alongside human marines, teaching them to use weapons and build barricades. You expect us to fight? Asked a young Valari male. His hands shook as he held the weapon. I expect you to defend your home, Hana said. We will do the hard part. But you need to know how to protect yourselves if we fail. Will you fail? Hana smiled. It was not a kind smile. The Kravik have never fought humans before. They have no idea what they are dealing with. The second Kravik attack came that night. 50 ships this time, targeting the orbital stations where refugees gathered before transport. UN vessels moved to intercept. EU Bai Cho flew wing position beside Soo-min. She was calm in battle, her hands steady on the controls. When 3 Kravik fighters targeted a refugee shuttle, she destroyed them without hesitation. Nice shooting, Soo-min said over the comm. They were going to kill children, Umbai replied. Her voice was flat, cold. I do not miss when children are involved. The battle spread across the system. Human and Kravik ships clashed in bursts of light and fire. The humans took losses, but they gave far worse than they received. In the medical bay of the Resolve, Dr. G1 treated wounded pilots. One Marine had lost his arm when his shuttle was hit. He was awake, despite the pain, watching her work. Doctor, he said, is the evacuation still going? G1 nodded. 300,000 Valari evacuated so far. Good. The Marine closed his eyes. That is what matters. Meryl helped in the medical bay, fetching supplies and translating for Valari wounded. She watched the humans suffer and heal, fight and recover. They were not invincible. They bled and broke just like anyone else, but they did not stop. Why do you keep fighting? She asked the wounded pilot. You are hurt. You could rest. The pilot looked at her with tired eyes. Have you ever seen someone die because you stopped fighting? Meryl shook her head. I have, the pilot said. Never again. Vorath received word that his reinforcements had arrived. 300 more ships. His fleet now numbered 500 against the humans' 500. The odds were even. He opened a channel to the human flagship. Admiral, he said, you have fought well, but now we are equal. More of my ships are coming. You cannot win. Withdraw now, and I will let you leave alive. Admiral Deho looked at the Kravik commander on his screen. He thought about the evacuation numbers. 700,000 Valari saved. 1.3 billion still waiting. Commander, Deho said, my answer has not changed. Come try to stop us. Vorath ended the transmission. His officers looked at him nervously. They are insane, one said. They would rather die than retreat. Then we will grant their wish, Vorath replied. All ships, prepare for full assault. We attack at dawn. In the darkness of space, 2 fleets prepared for war. The Valari watched from below, their fate hanging in the balance dot, and the humans checked their weapons, kissed pictures of loved ones, and prepared to die for strangers they had met only days ago. This was what it meant to be human. This was what the galaxy was about to learn. The Kravik attacked at dawn. 500 warships moved forward in a wave of death and destruction. They expected to break the human lines within hours. They expected surrender by noon. They were wrong. Admiral Deho had positioned his fleet in a defensive sphere around the planet. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the stakes. They were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for 2 billion lives. All vessels, hold the line, Deho commanded. Let nothing through. The first clash was brutal. Kravik ships slammed into human positions with overwhelming force. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Ships burned and died on both sides. Captain Yuna commanded the Resolve from the center of the battle. Her ship took hit after hit, but her crew kept fighting. Damage reports came every few seconds. Power failures, hull breaches, casualties mounting. Captain, we have lost main weapons, her tactical officer reported. Switch to secondary. Keep firing. Secondary is at 40%. Then make every shot count. The Kravik pushed hard against the human center. They wanted to break through to the planet, to stop the evacuation shuttles that launched every 4 minutes. Human ships blocked their path with their own bodies. On the planet's surface, Taeyong managed evacuation logistics from an underground bunker. His screens showed shuttle after shuttle rising through the atmosphere, each one carrying 3,000 Valari to safety. We have moved 1.2 million today, his assistant reported. But the Kravik are getting closer. Some shuttles have been hit. Reroute through Sector 7. The human line is strongest there. That adds 20 minutes to each flight. Better slow than dead. Do it. Above them, the battle raged on. Sun Min led his fighter squadron against a Kravik assault group. His ship was damaged, leaking fuel and missing one engine, but he refused to withdraw. All fighters, protect that convoy, he ordered. A line of evacuation shuttles was trying to break orbit. Kravik interceptors were moving to destroy them. Eun-Bai flew beside him, her ship in even worse condition. We cannot stop all of them, she said. We can try. They attacked. Sun Min destroyed 2 interceptors before his weapons overheated. Yun-Bai took out 3 more before a Kravik missile tore through her hull. Her ship spiraled out of control. Yun-Bai! Sun Min screamed. I am alive, her voice came through static. But my ship is done. Go. Finish the mission. Sun Min wanted to save her. He wanted to turn back and protect his friend. But the shuttles were still in danger. Thousands of Valari were counting on him. He flew on. Behind him, Yumbai's broken ship drifted toward rescue teams. Dr. G1 had not slept in 3 days. A medical bay was full of wounded humans and Valaria alike. She moved from patient to patient, stitching wounds, setting bones, saving lives. A young Marine died on her table. He was 19 years old. He had been hit while protecting an evacuation shuttle. His name was Jun-Seo Han, a nurse told her quietly. He volunteered for this mission. G1 closed the boy's eyes. There was no time to mourn. More wounded were coming. Elder Tivon watched the battle from the planetary command center. His old eyes could barely follow the movements of ships, but he understood the cost. Human vessels were dying to protect his people. How many have we lost? He asked. 83 human ships destroyed, an aide reported. Over 2,000 human casualties. Tivon felt his heart break. 2,000 lives. 2,000 families would never see their loved ones again. And the battle was not over. Elder, Meryl said softly, you need to see this. She led him to a view screen showing one of the evacuation corridors. A human cargo ship, the Eternal Dawn, had positioned itself between a Kravik cruiser and a shuttle full of refugees. The human ship was small. The cruiser was massive. The Kravik fired. The Eternal Dawn did not move. It took hit after hit, absorbing damage meant for the shuttle behind it. Why does it not run? Tivon whispered. Because the shuttle cannot escape in time, Meryl said. The human ship is sacrificing itself. They watched the Eternal Dawn burn. They watched it break apart piece by piece. And they watched the shuttle behind it escape to safety. The crew of the Eternal Dawn was lost. All 47 of them. They died so that 3,000 Valari could live. Tivon broadcast to his people that night. His voice shook with emotion. We called for help, expecting no answer. Instead, strangers came to die for us. They do not ask for thanks. They do not ask for payment. They fight and bleed and die because they believe it is right. Whatever happens tomorrow, remember this. Remember them. Remember what they gave for us. Across the Valari world, people wept. They had feared the Deathworlders. Now they loved them. The battle continued through the night. The human fleet lost 40% of its ships, but the line held. Evacuation shuttles kept launching. The numbers kept climbing. 1.5 billion saved. 1.6 billion. Commander Varath watched his fleet die against the human defenses. He had expected easy victory. Instead, he had found warriors who would not break. They are insane, his tactical officer said. They take losses no sane species would accept. They are not insane, Varath replied quietly. They are something worse. They are believers. They believe they are doing the right thing. You cannot defeat belief with guns. But Varath would not surrender. He could not. His reputation, his career, his life depended on victory. Send every ship we have, he commanded. Everything. We break them today or we die trying. The final Kravik assault came at midnight. Every remaining enemy ship attacked at once. The human line buckled, but did not break. Kyung-Soo Nam was aboard the engineering vessel Star's Promise. His ship was not a warship. It had no weapons. But it was fast, and it was positioned between the Kravik fleet and a convoy of 12 evacuation shuttles. All vessels form a wall, his captain ordered. We hold until the shuttles escape. Kyung-Soo looked at the tactical display. The shuttles needed 8 minutes. The Kravik would reach them in 3. He made a decision. Captain, he said, I am taking an escape pod to the engine room. I can overload the reactor. The explosion will disable the Kravik formation. His captain understood immediately. Kyung-Soo, that is a death sentence. The shuttles have 36,000 Valari aboard. I am one person. There was silence on the bridge. Then the captain spoke, his voice breaking. Permission granted. Godspeed. Kyung-soo reached the engine room as Kravik weapons pounded the star's promise. He worked quickly, bypassing safety systems, pushing the reactor beyond its limits. Alarms screamed around him. His last transmission was simple: get them out. That is all that matters. The star's promise exploded in a ball of white light. The blast disabled 9 Kravik warships. The convoy escaped. Kyung-soo Nam was gone. 1 life for 36,000. On the Resolve, Captain Yuna received the report. She stared at the casualty list on her screen. Thousands of names. Thousands of families. Meryl found her alone on the observation deck, looking at the stars. "Do you regret coming?" Meryl asked. Yuna's hands were shaking. Her eyes were wet. But when she spoke, her voice was steady. "We would do it again. Every time. That is what we are." Above the dying world, the battle continued. But somewhere in the darkness, more lights were appearing. More ships were coming, human ships. The Deathworlders had heard about the siege, and they were coming to finish what they started. The reinforcements came from everywhere. They came from Earth and Mars and the colony worlds. They came from mining stations and research outposts. They came in warships and cargo freighters and passenger liners that had been modified overnight to carry refugees. They came because someone needed help. That was the only reason that mattered. Commander Vorath watched the new contacts appear on his sensors. First 10 ships, then 50, then hundreds. Human vessels of every size and type, pouring into the system like a flood. "This is impossible," his tactical officer whispered. "Where did they all come from?" Vorath did not answer. He was watching a passenger liner position itself between his fleet and the planet. It had no weapons. It had no armor. But it had space for 10,000 refugees, and it was not moving. "They are civilians," he said. "They brought civilians to a war zone. They are volunteers, Commander. They came to help." The word echoed in Vorath's mind. Volunteers. These humans had not been ordered to come. They had chosen to come. They had left their homes and their families to save strangers on the other side of the galaxy. Admiral Deho opened a channel to his expanded fleet. Over 1,000 ships now answered his command. Half of them were not even military. "This is Admiral Shin," he broadcast. "Our mission has not changed. We are here to save every Valari on that planet. Not most of them. Not some of them. All of them. Today, we finish what we started." Across the fleet, voices answered. Soldiers and civilians, veterans and volunteers, all united by a single purpose. "For the Valari," they said. "For every last one." The counterattack began at dawn. Human ships advanced in perfect coordination. Military vessels led the assault while civilian transports evacuated refugees behind them. Soon Dashman was back in a fighter, his damaged ship replaced by a new one. Beside him flew Yumbai, recovered enough to fight again. Her arm was in a cast, but her aim was still perfect. "Welcome back," Sumin said. "I heard you cried when my ship went down." "I had something in my eye." "Sure you did." They attacked together, cutting through Kravik formations like knives through paper. The enemy was confused, disorganized, overwhelmed. They had prepared for a siege. They had not prepared for this. Commander Vorath tried to rally his fleet. He ordered counterattacks and regroupings. But his ships were dying faster than he could give orders. The humans were everywhere, attacking from every angle, giving him no time to think. A human strike force broke through his defensive line and headed straight for his flagship. Leading them was a ship he recognized. The Resolve. "Captain Yuna Park. Target that vessel," Vorath commanded. "Destroy it." His weapons fired. The Resolve took hits but kept coming. Her shields failed. Her hull breached. Still she came. Una stood on her damaged bridge, blood running down her face from a head wound. Her ship was dying around her, but she was close enough now. "Fire everything," she ordered. The resolve unleashed every weapon it had left. Missiles, beams, even escape pods loaded with explosives. The Kravik flagship shuddered under the assault. Vareth felt his ship dying beneath him. He had one chance left. One option for survival. "Full retreat," he ordered. "All ships, withdraw." The Kravik fleet tried to run. They did not get far. Sungmin's squadron cut off their escape route. Human warships closed in from every direction. Commander Voreth was captured alive. His flagship was disabled, his fleet destroyed. The siege was over. On the planet's surface, the final evacuation shovels launched. 2 billion Valari had been saved. Every single one. Not a child left behind. Not an elder forgotten. Every life counted. Every life saved. The cost was staggering. 127 human ships destroyed. Over 8,000 human lives lost. Countless more wounded. All for strangers they had met only weeks ago. The Galactic Council demanded an explanation. Ambassador Mira Jiang stood before them, small and calm in a room full of confused aliens. "Ambassador," the council speaker said, "your species has sacrificed thousands of lives for a people you have no treaty with. You have started a conflict with the Kravik Dominion. You have disrupted the balance of power in this sector. We require an explanation." Maria looked around the chamber. She saw confusion in their eyes, fear, suspicion. They could not understand why humans had done this. "You asked why we came," she said. "You asked why we fought. You asked why we died. The answer is simple. They needed help. That is enough. That will always be enough. But the cost was paid willingly. Every human who died for the Valari knew what they were doing. They chose to be there. They chose to fight. They chose to give everything for strangers. That is who we are. That is what we do. If that frightens you, then perhaps you should ask yourselves why helping others is so strange to you." The council had no response. Mira walked out without waiting for one. The Valari were resettled on a new world. It was green and alive, with a young sun that would burn for billions of years. Human engineers helped them build new cities. Human doctors helped them heal. Human teachers helped their children understand what had happened. Miro became a liaison between species. She spent years traveling between human and Valari space, building bridges that had not existed before. She wrote the official history of the rescue. She called it the day strangers became family. Years later, when another species sent a desperate call across the void, the Valari were among the first to answer. They sent ships and supplies and volunteers. They went even though it was dangerous. They went even though they had little to gain. "Why do you help them?" asked a confused ambassador. "They had nothing to you." The Valari ambassador smiled. "Someone taught us what it means to be good neighbors. We are simply passing on the lesson." Elder Tivan lived long enough to see his people thrive on their new world. In his final years, he visited a memorial built on a hillside overlooking the first Valari city. The memorial listed every human who had died in the rescue. 8,000 names carved in stone. He came there often, especially at sunset when the light was soft and golden. He would place his hand on the cool stone and read the names. Sometimes he spoke to them, though he knew they could not hear. On his last visit, when his body was failing and his time was short, he said the words that had become sacred to his people. The words that children learned in school. The words that were carved above the entrance to their new government building. "They came because we called," he whispered. "They stayed because we needed them. They are the reason we still breathe." He died 3 days later, at peace, surrounded by family. The Valari mourned him as a hero. But Tavan would have said the real heroes were the humans who had answered an impossible call from strangers in the dark. That was the true legacy of the Pleiad, Deathworlders. Not their strength or their speed or their terrible endurance, but their hearts. Their stubborn, impossible, beautiful hearts. They had heard a cry for help. And they had answered. They always would.